So here in the Araguaia basin, in the town of Aruana, because there are Aruana here. There's also river dolphins, boto, and I've just learned there are black caiman, which I didn't think came this far south, but they are here, which is a bit worrying. Hopefully we won't meet any, as they can be not very friendly. We're about to go out and check some small creeks and streams along the side of the highway in the area and see if we can find Ember Tetras, Hyphessobrycon amandae. There's no guarantee, and it's a cloudy day, and it's going to rain a lot because it's the wet season. So we'll see, but we're just in this hotel, and we're going with the State University of the state of Goiás, with a team from the Araguaia Vivo Projeto. So I'm very, very privileged to be with them and my wonderful professor, Fernando Carvalho, along with our friend Fabrício Teresa, who is from the State University. So hopefully we'll find some stuff. Let's see.
Se não tiver ninguém, do lado de cima você vai conseguir.
Mesmo onde tinha, todo mundo via amanhã, um local para criança,
É no meio dos capinhos.
não dá. Tem mais um Rio Vermelho, o Araguaia não tem. Porque o Araguaia é corrente, ela não para. É o cebolão que eles falam aqui, eu não sei como se chama. Lá, aí ninguém diz, só desce. O Rio Vermelho.
So to give you guys an idea, here's the highway into town, and here you see there's a sort of flooded area, there's ditches, see there's some nymphea, what they call brejos, some swampy ground here. And this is where apparently you have Hyphessobrycon amandae. There's some Ludwigia sedoides growing down there, there's some nymphea, I don't know what. I'm going to stay a little bit away from the road because there's a lot of traffic, people drive fast. Lots of big trucks. A lot of the fishes in Brazil that we have in the hobby, you know, we think of coming from these pristine environments. They do not. They are found in little roadside ditches and swampy bits. And that's because these were once pristine environments. But, you know, roads have been built and towns have been constructed nearby and rubbish has been thrown in. And things have been dammed. There's some infrastructure here, there's some fencing. Ooh, actually, there's some cool stuff. Hang on. So you can see where the water drains down in the road. There's an outlet pipe here. Fernando and Fabrício on the other side of the road talking with the owners of a piece of ground there. Yep. We need speed limits anyway, right? So I'm going to flip the camera around. So here we got, oh, I can see fish. There's Cabomba. I don't know if you guys can see this. There is what looks like Eichhornia diversifolia. There's what looks like, well, various nymphea. I'm going to ask my friend Juliana Leroy about identifying these plants, but that's not always easy without actually examining the flowers or the bulbs. But apparently this is where you find Hyphessobrycon amandae. So you can see it's sort of swampy area. The river is kind of that way, the Araguaia. You have the carinde palms that grow with their feet wet. Just gonna let the guys know I'm down here so they don't stress out, think I've been kidnapped or whatever. So the guys have gone into the property here. I'm gonna stop filming when I go in. You always got to ask permission. People you're filming, talking to. So if I can film in there, turn the camera back on. So we've come in, and Fernando and Fabrício say that here are some Hyphessobrycon amandae. Vamos ver? Ok. Vamos ver se a gente enxerga sem cair dentro da água. That's why you don't grab onto the trees nearby. Vai. Será que a gente enxerga? Cadê? Aqui. Tem uns bichos lá mexendo. Tem muito peixe aqui. Nossa, olha assim. Caraca. Que da hora. So we were allowed to dive. So hopefully get in the water in a bit and have a look. Got some nets as well. So this is a property that's obviously they've formalized the habitat. there's still fishes here. Cadê, Fernando? Eu não tô enxergando. Vou ter que entrar na água pra... Esses óculos são pra ver na água, mas...
Aqui, tá aí aqui, ó. Ó, aqui, ó.
Ah, é! Caramba, tem sim. São pequenininhos.
Muito.
So they are here, but they're tiny. Que da hora. So, day 1 of trying to find Hyphessobrycon. We found Hyphessobrycon. Agora podemos ir para casa, né? Mission complete. We can go home. Mission accomplished. Fernando's really excited because they found a bunch more Ember Tetras up here. And he's running over there. I'm trying not to run too. And this is the property. It's rented out as a sort of weekend getaway by the owner. Tá, obrigado. Ai, aqui tem. Opa. Aqui. Hyphessobrycon, amandae. Caramba. Senhora, eu veio da Inglaterra pra cá pra ver esse bicho. Uns 10... Não, Inglaterra pra São Paulo, mais de 8.000 quilômetros. Depois de São Paulo pra cá. So there's I don't know if you guys can see because of the reflection, but there's a shoal of Ember Tetras here with various other small tetras. You can see there's all the Ludwigia pseudoides mixed in with the nymphea, mixed in with, I think it's Eichhornia rather than Characidium. Oh look, here's a tetra which has been parasitized by the parasite which augments the guanine in the scales, thus making it more visible, thus making it predated, eat more easily, so a heron or a kingfish or a bigger predator will eat it, and then the parasite completes its life cycle in the guts of the bigger predator. Isn't nature amazing? There's a big shoal of fishes up here. Ah, here we go. Look, I don't know if you can see them. Look at them. I don't know if you guys can see this. I've got my sunglasses on, but I'm going to get in the water and film this. Look at all the Ludwigia pseudoides. It's a plant very difficult to maintain in the aquarium. It likes acid water, loads of sun. Beautiful. So, you know, I'll be lucky to be here. The ladies explained that in the last dry season, the whole habitat dried out. All the fish were gone or died, including they had none of the Ember Tetras left. You can see some red Ludwigia inclinata here. So last dry season, no water, no fish, no plants. Wet season returns, and the habitat explodes back into existence. Incredible. Incredible. Sorry, I'm mixing them up, Portuguese and English. You can hear the road right next to us, how busy it is. So look at this matrix of plants. You've got the pseudoides, you've got the Eichhornia. You've got what, to my eyes, looks like Ludwigia inclinata. But when it's in its immersed form, I thought it might be Rotala espigoeus, but it's actually no, I think it is a Ludwigia. Got the grasses. And this region has lots of Amazonian species. This is the Bacia, the Araguaia basin. And so there's lots of overlap with fishes from the Amazon. Just on the map, it looks like we're nowhere near the Amazon. But in the river here, they have arowana, they have river dolphins. They've got all sorts of amazing things. Esse ponte é bom também. Aqui tem. So they're finding shoal of bigger fishes here. Que legal. So I'll show you guys, here's the drainage into the lake from the other side. And down here, there's a shoal of Ember Tetras. They've just disappeared. They've gone, oh, they're over there. Ah, eu vi peixe grande aqui.
Falóceros, será que aquele ali é falóceros? Eu tô achando que é, ó. Ali por cima, ó.
Mas não era o Poecilia?
Se for falóceros, a gente não coleta esse peixe há mais de 30 anos ali, ó. Será muito que é? Fica à vontade. Aqui, ó.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Ou é Poecilia?
Ludwigia inclinata. Aqui é mais fundo, mas vamos lá. Vou sentando. Ó. Opa. Vou aí. um que parece Iguanodectes. Pode ser?
Pode.
The water was initially murky, but I was still able to recognize several species, including the head and tail-like tetra Holopristis ocellifer, which used to be known as Hemigrammus ocellifer. Underwater, the crimson Ludwigia inclinata looked even more beautiful than it did from the surface. Growing along the bank were great stands of Eichhornia diversifolia, spattered with columns of Cabomba facata, judging by the purple flowers and the soft orange textures. I drifted through the stands of vegetation towards the outlet pipes coming from under the road, and that's when I saw them, the Ember Tetras down near the substrate, small red jewels darting amongst the swaying fronds of the plants. I confess it was actually quite an emotional moment for me. I've always had that when I've found an aquarium species in the wild that I'm familiar with, and I suddenly think, wow, I'm seeing this animal here in nature, and I don't know, it's the best feeling. I don't need a Lamborghini, I don't need $1 million, but I need this, and it just feels incredible, and I feel so lucky to be able to witness it, and this is why I want to share it with everyone. Well, actually, maybe not a Lamborghini, but $1 million might be nice, just so I can travel and do this more often. But one thing I noticed was how strong the current was, and how the Ember Tetras just seemed to be quite happy in it. And then I spotted another species that I know and love, the penguin tetra, Thayeria bulkai. And that was, again, my heart just suddenly jumping. Look, penguin tetras right in front of me. Isn't that amazing? Exploring near the drainage pipes, I found small pike cichlids, some kind of Saxatilia. I'm not sure exactly which species, but I've always found these animals so charismatic and engaging and fun to watch and observe. The vibrance of the plants here, the Eichhornia diversifolia, the palm fronds that were hanging in, there was grasses, submerged grasses along the margins, which are really important habitat for small fishes. This quite complex area where it's easier to hide from predators. There's lots of broken lines of sight, there's cover at the surface. It was here where I spent a lot of time observing the penguin tetras, who were swimming around with other small characins, and these very small darter characins, some kind of Characidium, which swam in the mid-water, sort of hovering around. But I was looking at these penguin tetras, so big and beautiful, and I just, they're a fish you see in the shop, and they're so common, and they're kind of, everyone's had a go. But when you see them in the wild and in this context, you're just like, wow, they are amazing. I want to keep them again, I noticed the substrate was made up of lots of leaf litter and detritus, sort of sandy clay type material. And there wasn't a lot of fish moving around along the bottom. I'd expected maybe some corridors or something, but I didn't find any of those. Most of the fishes here, as in most neotropical habitats, were characins, different kinds of tetras. These guys tend to dominate. You can see some kind of poptella there, the quite deep-bodied fish. There's some various kinds of Hemigrammus, Monkhausia. Of course, there's the Ember Tetra, Hyphessobrycon. all sorts of small fishes which are generalists. They can take advantage of different food types and resources, drift picking or picking at little bits of detritus. They're sort of fish that often live fast, die young. They breed year round. You can find them in all sorts of habitats. And because they are generalist opportunists, you find them everywhere much of the year. You can see the bit of Ludwigia inclinata there amongst the Eichhornia. Really nice. This plant is stunning and covered in algae. I grow it here at home, and it's a really challenging plant, but I find it in the wild so often in conditions that you think would be really, really adverse for it, and it seems to be thriving. Again, in the dry season, all of these plants disappear. They're dried out, but the seeds remain. They go into that sediment. You can see there's a lot of sediment. I was trying not to stir it up. It's really hard to not cloud the water. I kept returning to the outlets of the pipes because that's where the Ember Tetras seem to gather in these huge shoals, thousands strong. They seem to do a kind of circular pattern where they'd swim up to the pipes, they'd swim across them, they'd go downstream, they'd cross the stream, they'd come upstream up the other bank, back to the pipework, and do this sort of repeated circular motion. One thing that was very interesting was on the other side of the road, where the water is draining into the pipes, we did explore and we didn't find any Ember Tetras. In fact, the fish fauna was really much poorer, much less diverse. You can see some Iguanodectes tetras. There's really long, slender tetras here, the green lizard tetras. So we think they're Iguanodectes spirulus. And you can see the Astyanax, these kind of deeper bodied tetras with the black spot on the middle of the body and on the caudal peduncle at the base of the tail. That family of fishes you find from Texas down to Argentina, everywhere. Many different species. See the penguins kind of surfing on the current going downstream. They all do this and they turn around and they swim back upstream, picking at items that are drifting down in the flow. Near the base of the outlets, we could see these juvenile piau, these leperinus, maybe Leperinus frederici. There were some other cichlids, maybe Cyclosoma, juvenile cichlids here as well. You can see a pike cichlid just hiding down there in the plants. That was interesting to watch them climb these towers of Eichhornia, perhaps waiting to ambush some of the smaller tetras. One thing I found really interesting was this juxtaposition of man-made space and infrastructure and nature. This stream 40 years ago would have been surrounded by primary rainforest. It would have been shaded by trees. There wouldn't have been the road. There wouldn't have been the tunnel. It would have been a drainage area for the main river, which is a few kilometers away. Since, the area has been turned into farmland and ranches and buildings. Fish are doing what they always did there, moving into the flooded areas when the rains come. But now there's concrete, there's trucks roaring overhead. And it's quite surreal to be imagining that. And thinking how this place used to be, obviously it makes you feel very sad as well that it has been converted. But I have a small feeling of hope when I see these animals are still here, still surviving in this incredibly modified landscape. And again, what a privilege it is to be able to witness it at all, to get to see it perhaps before it's completely gone, to be part of this space in this moment. I realize how lucky I am. You can see this complex habitat along the margin, all the flooded grasses, there's aquatic plants in there, there's bits of terrestrial vegetation that have fallen down. The small fishes really use this habitat. It's a great place to hide, get away from predators, to breed, to display. Fabricio was really enjoying the experience as well. Fernando didn't get into the water because he can't swim, but he enjoyed it too. The other species I really enjoyed watching were the lizard tetras, the Iguanodectes spirulus. They have these amazing greenish colours that just capture the light, and they're like torpedoes that sort of zip past you, really streamlined forms. They're not a fish I've kept here at home, partly because they're very expensive, they're hard to get, they're quite sensitive, they are notorious jumpers. I don't have a lot of tanks with lids on, but perhaps one day if I have a very big tank I will get hold of a group of them because they were really stunning. But I just kept coming back to the Ember Tetras, as you can see, kept returning to the openings of the drainage tunnels here and spending time just watching these clouds of little red gems drifting past me, and naturally it was very hard to resist that. I was lucky the sun came out, broke through those rain clouds and really highlighted them beautifully. This wasn't the only place where we found Ember Tetras in the Araguaia basin, but it was where we found the largest number of them in this pretty much man-made or man-transformed habitat. I was fighting this feeling of melancholy that, this used to be a forest stream surrounded by rainforest, and maybe the species diversity was less and the abundance of fishes was less, but wasn't wonderful that they were still here in at least some capacity. And I just held on to that, and I looked at the beauty before me, and just, you feel pretty small in these moments, actually. Even the smallest fish can make you feel quite insignificant, make you realize perhaps your place in nature. One thing I often think about when I'm in these kind of habitats is the idea of recreating this in an aquarium as a biotope. Instead of lots of different plants and loads of species, maybe one, perhaps two species of plants with lots of it. Imagine like a 120 centimeter tank just with Eichhornia versifolia, maybe some Cabomba, maybe bits of Ludwigia, and just a massive shoal of Ember Tetras like we've just been looking at, with a few head and tail light tetras, a couple of penguin tetras. Wouldn't that be an amazingly impactful view? You can see here another fish, Cyphocharax, small Cyphocharax. You can see the other characins. You probably spotted the invasive guppies earlier, Poecilia. They're quite handsome fish, but don't really want them. Or more juvenile cichlids, juvenile Mesonauta found, juvenile Uauru, Also came across cupid cichlids, Biotodoma, cupido, and the earth eater Satanoperica papaterra. So the cichlid you see here moving around the bottom is juvenile Satanoperica papaterra, an earth eater cichlid. And they get quite large, they get about 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters, but these are small ones here.
So we've been exploring here, really amazing. Found Ember Tetras, Penguin Tetras, Iguanodectes, lizard tetras, tiny little Characidium that live in the mid-water column, Satanoperica, Quilicicla, pike cichlids, different cichlids. Got some spiky stuff in my arm now. Various other small tetras, and we're going to dip in with the nets. We can show you exactly what's here. Fernando's going to do some collecting. I just explored a habitat on the other side of the road, loads of Cabomba, but not as many fishes, or rather the diversity of the species was less. Some amazing huge shoals of Ember Tetras here, which was really emotional to like be amongst them. And yeah, this is, you know, it's a private property where the habitat is not as natural as we might like it to be, but this is where the fishes are, so this is where we have to come to study them. It's part of the reality of our Anthropocene age. So here's the outlet from the flood meadows or swamps on the other side, drains into here, comes out here. Here goes Fernando, master catcher of fishes. And I'm going to sit down, hopefully not get mobbed by ants, which does happen. Tava todas ali, ó, tá vendo?
Ah, sim, achei que estão aqui embaixo.
Oh, look at that. Oh, you Ember Tetras. See how tiny they are. Que lindos. So we can see how minuscule the Ember Tetras are here compared to what you might see in the shops. We're going to probably have lunch and head to another place because it's about to rain like crazy here, I think. The wind has picked up and we don't want to get caught in a storm. Comes the rain! Oh, here it is. There we go. I'm wet already, but still.
No meia. Digo pela facilidade.